Rajim, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, Assalamu alaikum, Ji Ayanu, Pakhairagale, Ni Hao, Chunashumme, Washpale, Ohai Gazaimas, Guten Morgen, Ola, Boyor, Privyet, Kaifahal, Hale Shumachatore, Ahlan Wasala Marhaba, Buna, Mucho, Gracias, Swabi, Bhalli Kareaya, Hosh Galden and Iosayo, Huya Mora, Chivato, Chi Haljod, Kalimera, and a very warm welcome to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and watching World this morning on a very fine Thursday morning over in Islamabad alongside my very wonderful and well-learned colleague who happens to be Ms. Hajja Sati. I happen to be Shahzad Hassan Khan, and we hope and pray that everybody out there is doing wonderfully well and that you're ready to kickstart your day with us. But first things first, the weather over here in Islamabad, ladies and gentlemen, happens to be superb. It looks like as if Islamabad is just brand new. It's all washed up. There are clouds circulating around. You know, you look at Magla Hills, the view is just so impeccable, ladies and gentlemen, that you know that every time you look at it you say Subhanallah. And on this I think I would love to kind of take Hajja's reaction on how the weather is today outside. So Hajja, what do you have to say about the weather?
Assalamu alaikum, Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for introducing me, Shahzad. Because I totally agree with you, and I think we have always maintained this view that Islamabad looks brilliant after being freshly showered, right? You can see the greenery around, you can see the dust settling down, and obviously it is located in the footsteps of the Magala Hills, so you can see the beauty of that. And I think, Shahzad, we are very lucky, and we take this, I think, sometimes for granted a lot, that our office is located in a very beautiful vicinity in the first place, right? And so whenever there is a rain shower, you have a very beautiful view of the Magalas, of the clouds which have come down and which are making it even more wonderful. And I think this is the season that we are truly enjoying, because there was this monsoon season of humidity and hotness and all of that sweatiness and perspiration that was really not very pleasant in the first place. But now I think we have transcended that weather, and now it's a shower, rain and pleasantness which is surrounding us, and we hope and maintain that this weather continues forward, because obviously we have been in love with the rain and we have always romanticized that.
Ameen, Sumameen. And yes, in addition to that, you know, this is something which I've stated before, and I would want to kind of reassure for all of those people. You have to reassure this by yourself, yes, and that is that, you know, that please make sure that, you know, all of that sanitation at your terraces and, you yes, know, at your roof, you know, at your house, you really need to make sure that, you know, all of those pipeways are actually open, because most of the time what happens is that they get clogged. And this is something yes, which actually happened to me just a few days ago, that I woke up at 6 in the morning, okay, and I was getting ready, and all of a sudden I stepped on the floor, and I was about to wear my socks, and I was like, okay, where's this water coming from? And you know, so to my you know, surprise, I looked at the terrace door and the water was coming in, it was receding in. So I had to wake up my friend. I was like, yeah, why don't you go outside and check if there are any leaves or something, you know, onto that pipeline. So ladies and gentlemen, please make sure that you ensure that, number one. Number two, imagine that, you know, how left out do we feel over here that our cafeteria does not offer us pakoras, and that too in this weather. So that's the kind of...
I think it does.
No, they don't. So
no?
This is the kind of conversation which I had, you know, with our amazing security guard who's outside in the parking. You know, so I asked him, I was like, yeah, did you had pakora? You know, the weather is so nice. And he was like, sir, our cafeteria doesn't offer us pakora. So I was like, okay, where do you get it then from? Right. So then he gave me an address to another cafeteria. And I think for everybody over here in PTV, yes, if you're looking forward to pakoras, that's exactly what I'm going to do right after the show. What about you? Do you love pakoras?
I think, I mean, who can resist the charm of chips and pakoras? There are two things, even if you are totally full, you would always succumb to the temptation of chips and pakoras and samosas in the first place, because deeply fried items, it tastes really yummy. But Shahzad, since it's summer vacations going on, it's July, and we've seen that there are a lot of box office blockbusters coming out, right? And there's a lot of hype regarding Barbie and Oppenheimer, and you would see that there's a massive publicity in the PR campaign which the Barbie team had done in order to make sure that their film is running successfully.
Did you see those massive billboards, you know, all over where a Barbie is actually walking out of a box?
Yes, with the 3G sort of an merger with the artificial intelligence and the virtual reality and whatnot. And I think I am a bit receded back because of all of this huge marketing in the first place, because I feel that this is encroaching on our public spaces a lot, right? And obviously there's a lot of reviews coming on. So I was reading one review on The Guardian. So that guy, he happens to be a film critic, and he watched Oppenheimer and Barbie at the same time, right? One show after another. And he said this was a horrible experience. Please don't do that, because both of the movie have very different themes, and they're very dense, and they're very, you need to absorb a lot. So if you're doing it the same day and the same time, so that might take a lot of pressure on your brain. But I think, having said so, these two films have also rescued the Hollywood cinemas, the theaters, because they were in the jeopardy in the first place, and the because of the OTT platforms like the Netflix, like the Hulu, and all of these initiatives like
Now we
OTT.
have PTV Flix as well.
Exactly. So that has dented the cinema-going culture in the first place. Shahzad, but what about you? Are you a truly cinema goer, or you would like to, see the movie in your house?
Obviously, I love going to the cinema with
Right.
friends or with family, and we have a culture in our family that whenever a film is being released, may it be Pakistani, may it be from Hollywood, we
Right.
would certainly make sure to book tickets. And
True.
just on this Sunday, I had my ticket booked for Oppenheimer, but unfortunately couldn't go because I had a meeting to attend.
Okay.
So I was working. So, if it's work and if it's movie, and if I have to choose, obviously it's going to be work first.
Right.
But certainly for me, for somebody who's 35, 36 years old, going to watch Barbie
Yes.
is not something which I probably will have the guts to do. That's one thing which I won't probably do. And there's another fascinating fact about the Barbie film, and that is that, so imagine that, while they were making Barbie film, the color pink,
Yeah.
in terms of paint, was used so much that there was a dearth for the next 4 days, that there was no pink
Oh.
paint available for the next 4 or 5 days in their
Interesting.
local vicinity. So they had to collect it from across the states
Oh.
to make sure that they could fulfill it. But that's, ladies and gentlemen, obviously is the news from the filmy world. And now coming back to reality, where I certainly want to talk about chips and how us brothers and sisters, because we were 7, and this is a very interesting
Mashallah,
story.
mashallah.
So imagine what used to happen was that our mother used to tell us that, okay, if you want to have French fries, have French fries.
Okay, yes.
But you guys will have to make them yourselves.
Okay.
Because so imagine, 7 people, and that too, if they want to have French fries. So I think it was my and my sister's responsibility to peel the potatoes off.
Okay.
Then the other's responsibility was to fry them up. Then the other's responsibility was to
Eat them.
serve. And then the other responsibility was to
Right.
wash the leftovers as well. So ladies and gentlemen, I think towards the end, and I believe that, that people from our generation might have done it. So towards the end, when, there's only a little amount of French fries left, everybody starts to kind of grab like
That's true, that's
4
true.
in their hands, 5
Yes.
or 10 or whatever they could
Yes,
grab.
yes,
And
yes.
it used to be
I
really
understand the
fascinating.
struggle, yeah, the same thing,
So,
struggle.
I just got through that nostalgia
Yeah.
just now.
That's wonderful. But obviously, we reminiscent that older times, and I think whenever our younger siblings or younger nephews and nieces are having chips, so we are reminded back of
And
those
you always have to pick some out of it. Whoever's
Yes.
eating French fries, there's no way that you miss
True.
out on French fries. Sorry.
That's very true. Thank you so much. So now let's coming back to our segment, and since it's a month of Muharram, and we've always talked about it is one of the holy and the sacred month of the Muharram, and the significance of the Muharram also stands out because of the one tragic event of the Karbala, and certainly in the coming days, and especially tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, we will have the special transmission to commemorate the tragic events of the Karbala. So we would like to introduce our guest in the first place with connection to Karbala and with connection to Muharram in the first place. So we are very glad that we have been joined by Noor Aisha, who happens to be a Nathwan. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for coming to our show. Right, and joining her, we also have Qari Inamul Haq. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much.
Wa
for
alaikum
coming to
assalam
our
wa
show.
rahmatullahi wa
So we
barakatuh.
would like to start with Aisha. Aisha, please, Nath ho jaye. Mankabat?
Ji,
Mankabat.
And just very quickly for everybody who's out there, I would want you to understand, because a lot of people cannot probably differentiate for the English-speaking countries. So what happens is that when we say Hamd is where we're praising Allah Almighty. When we say Naat Rasool, Naat Rasool Maqbool Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that is obviously to praise Hazrat Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, our Prophet, the only Prophet, ladies and gentlemen. And when we talk about Mankabat, ladies and gentlemen, it is a Sufi devotional poem, and that too for the son-in-law of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who happens to be Hazrat Ali Alayhi Salam. Now please, let's get started.
आया ना होगा इस तरह रंगो शबाब रेत पर गुलशन फातिमा के थे सारे गुलाब रेत पर गुलशन फातिमा के थे سارے گلاب ریت پر جانے بطول کے سوا کوئی نہیں کھلا سکا جانے بطول کے سوا کوئی نہیں کھلا سکا قطرۂ آب کے بغیر اتنے گلاب ریت پر گلشن فاطمہ کے تھے سارے گلاب ریت پر عشق میں کیا لٹائیے عشق میں کیا بچائیے عشق میں کیا لٹائیے عشق میں کیا بچائیے آل نبی نے لکھ دیا سارا نصاب ریت پر گلشن فاطمہ کے تھے سارے گلاب ریت پر آل نبی کا کام تھا آل نبی ہی کر گئے آل نبی کا کام تھا آل نبی ہی کر گئے کوئی نہ لکھ سکا ادیب ایسی کتاب ریت پر آیا نہ ہوگا اس طرح رنگ و شباب ریت پر گلشن فاطمہ کے تھے سارے گلاب ریت پر
سبحان اللہ اللہم صلی علی محمد و علی محمد کما صلیت علی ابراہیم و علی ابراہیم انک حمید مجید اللہم بارک علی محمد و علی محمد کما بارکت علی ابراہیم و علی ابراہیم انک حمید مجید. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to move on to Qari Inam Sahab now. So Qari Inam Sahab, please, another mankabat for our viewers.
یہ دل بھی حسینی ہے یہ جان بھی حسینی ہے یہ دل بھی حسینی ہے یہ جان بھی حسینی ہے الحمد کے اپنا تو ایمان بھی حسینی ہے الحمد کے اپنا تو ایمان بھی حسینی ہے رونق ہے مساجد میں شبیر کے سجدے سے رونق ہے مساجد میں شبیر کے سجدے سے ممبر بھی حسینی ہے آذان بھی حسینی ہے ممبر بھی حسینی ہے آذان بھی حسینی ہے الحمد کے اپنا تو ایمان بھی حسینی ہے کوئی مانے یا نہ مانے اپنا تو عقیدہ ہے کوئی مانے یا نہ مانے اپنا تو عقیدہ ہے ہر قاری کے ہونٹوں پر قرآن حسینی ہے ہر قاری کے ہونٹوں پر قرآن حسینی ہے یہ دل بھی حسینی ہے یہ جان بھی حسینی ہے
صدق اللہ العظیم جزاک اللہ بہت بہت شکریہ thank you so much قاری نام الحق صاحب for joining us wonderful to have you over here and thank you so much Noor Aisha for being with us then too on the 8th of Muharram al-Haram and with that ladies and gentlemen we're heading out towards a short break don't go anywhere we'll be right back there's certainly a few other things which we would like to kind of contemplate on and talk about and it has to do quite a lot about the well-being of our people so don't go anywhere we'll be right back good morning
Welcome back and we are going to have a very interesting conversation today and which deals with, like Shahzad alluded to before, well-being, and I think we would focus on the physical well-being of us. And we had this conversation a lot of time that because of the way that we are leading our lives in the first place, right? So the element of mobility is almost eliminated from our lives, and we see that there is a prevalence of lot of diseases around us, right? And we've also seen that there's something wrong inherently with the way we are living our lifestyles, and obviously because of the science and technology and the research and the development, that there's a lot of research to combat such sort of diseases in the first place. But I mean their existence is in itself itself is a question mark on our society in general as to how they are shaped and as to how they are morphed into in particular cases.
Exactly.
Right?
And in addition to that, Haja, I would love to mention that, how, there are certain illnesses when we speak of them, we do certainly kind of make sure that we say or, kind of build a narrative that we have a predisposition genetically. Now, I think that, with this very illness, unfortunately, the predisposition is not because of our genetics, but it's probably because of the fact that which part of the world we live in. And that's something that is certainly very important to highlight. And while we talk of it, ladies and gentlemen, since everybody knows that tomorrow it's going to be 9th of Muharram of Al-Haram, but on the 28th of July, there is another important day which we want to discuss about, and certainly we're doing it today, and it happens to be World Hepatitis Day. And it is certainly to raise awareness amongst people so that they can get themselves tested. And World Health Organization actually kind of confirms that over here, just in Pakistan, there's 4 to 5% prevalence of hepatitis C. Now, there are other infections which are associated with that. There are other bloodborne diseases which we certainly need to talk about. And what's the sort of prevalence, what preventive measures can be taken. Let's talk about those age groups who are more prone to it. And while we speak of it, the theme this year happens to be "We are not waiting," and it's because of the fact that hepatitis certainly can't wait. And to talk about it, we're very lucky that we've actually been joined by somebody whose introduction is long, and I'll make sure that I kind of do justice with it. So, ladies and gentlemen, he actually happens to be consultant gastroenterologist, hepatologist. Not just that, ladies and gentlemen, happens to be professor of medicine and gastroenterology, diplomat American Board of Internal Medicine, diplomat American Board of Gastroenterology. Ladies and gentlemen, he happens to be a recipient of Sitara Imtiaz as well. He happens to be Professor Dr. Muzaffar Lateef Gill. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning.
Ji, good morning. Thank you so much. I'm very honored and privileged to be with you both this morning, and
thank you so much, Dr. Saab, for taking out the time out of your very busy schedule and being here. And obviously, when we talk about raising awareness regarding the hepatitis, so once it was believed that hepatitis was a very fatal disease, but now because of the research and the technology and innovation in the medical sciences, it is generally believed that you can tackle it if you timely delve into the solution or the cure of it in the first place, right? So, how right is this perception, and what needs to be done in order to tackle this disease beforehand?
okay, this is absolutely correct, whatever you have said. Okay, hepatitis B and C in 23 are both curable diseases.
Right.
Okay. You have just oral treatment, certain pills you take and you are cured. But I will take one step back.
Okay.
Okay, in 2023, we should strive that there should not be new hepatitis B and C patient. It's cannot be more true for this, that prevention is better than cure.
That's true.
Okay, we should not have hepatitis B and C. The sad part is it's totally preventable, controllable. Nobody should have it.
True.
This is one. So before, with your permission, we talk about the cure, let me share with you why we in this country, we are the second largest population of hepatitis B and C in the world.
True.
We are close rival of Chinese, okay? And it's totally preventable. It should not happen. So, if I may share with you what are the risk factors, why we are getting and why this is so out of control.
Sure, sir. We certainly want you to speak about it, but where right at the beginning I mentioned that we certainly have a predisposition to this illness is probably because of the kind of region we live in. Is that correct, or do you think that with B and C this might be correct, but with hepatitis A it might not be correct?
No, actually, region has nothing to do with it. Okay. Hepatitis B and C, as you both mentioned in your intro, its word hepatitis B is related to B and C infection, not A and E.
Ji.
What you mentioned about regional issue, this tropical part of the world, Indian subcontinent, South Asia, we have monsoons.
Yes.
And they push us for, so to speak, waterborne diseases.
Yes.
And as you rightly said, this region is more afflicted with floods and drainage issues.
A lot of waterborne diseases exist.
So there, hepatitis B and C, if you allow me, is blood-borne disease. It's not waterborne. So why we are the second largest population in the world for as far as hepatitis B and C is concerned? This is blood-borne disease, and we are propagating this because of 3-4 reasons. Number one, unfortunately, medical profession and allied is responsible as well. Okay, so when there is a contaminated syringes, needles, unscreened blood products, unsterilized equipment, these young ladies goes to salons, ear, nose piercing and whatever.
Yes, yes.
So basically, the used item which are reused, maybe syringes,
Yes.
maybe whatever razors, all stuff.
Exactly.
So these are the precursors, these are the factors, right? Basically, IV drug treatment. These days it's an epidemic of gastroenteritis. Every patient who comes through the door, what they want is IV medication. So we should, on emergency basis, redouble our efforts. And it's very simple. The tragic part, again I'm repeating, it's totally preventable. It should not happen. And just in big cities we are using sterilized equipment, and even some big hospital there is occasional lapse in
Yes.
sterilization standard. And let me give you one example. What's the big deal? If a child is born today with hepatitis B and C, if he or she is unnoticed, by the time this individual will make to the college, age 20 or 18, there are 30% chances that if this individual has infection, not tested, not treated, he or she will have what we call cirrhosis, shrinkage of the liver. And it's so tragic that the only, 20 years, a young blossoming age, and you have this problem. And the only fix is, what? Liver transplant. And the transplant life is again full of many complications, hazards. So as they say, stitch in time saves 9.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saab, for brilliantly putting it out there. And since you dispelled the impression that it has nothing to do with the demographic in the first place or our region in the first place, so now let's talk about the contaminated water. Do you think there's a connection between the prevalence of hepatitis and the contaminated water? And if yes, so how do you describe the pure preventive measures for the communities, the people living there who do not have access to clean drinking water in the first place, who are marginalized communities, who are underprivileged communities? How can they protect themselves from the scourge of the hepatitis?
Because they used to tell us that, when we were growing up, our mothers used to boil water. Now they're
Yes.
like, when you boil water, you take out all the minerals. So, we're still confused, okay, what to do now?
Yes.
देखिए, the waterborne diseases, there is a segment of hepatitis as well.
Okay.
Right.
That is called hepatitis A and E.
Yeah.
This is all, the B and C, what we discussed, is a bloodborne.
Bloodborne.
These are waterborne.
Yep.
And what happens? For example, if sewage system and your drainage is choked, so the water gets contaminated. When there are floods, rains,
Yes.
and any unhygienic conditions. So you very rightly mentions we are crowded living country,
Yes.
we are developing country,
A
and
lot of
so on
ghettos.
so on.
Yes.
So, as the gentleman mentioned, wherever you are, boiling a water is not a big deal,
True.
right? So, we should do things to prevent this. We call it orophycal route.
Right.
When we release ourselves, the feces, they get mixed with water and all. So, how to get rid of this to prevent frequent hand washing?
Right.
But in our household, whosoever is responsible for cooking, cleaning, etc., the washing, hands washing, like mad. Number 2, boiling water. Okay, you boil the water and then drink it.
Okay.
So I think even whatever primitive or remote conditions we are, and I will share you one example.
Sure, sir.
I mean, it's almost 100 years back in United States. there was a county in Philadelphia, and there was a guest house, and everybody, whosoever was staying there, was getting infection, not hepatitis but typhoid.
Yeah.
So there was an alarm, and they did anything and everything, and eventually they got hold of an individual. It's called Typhoid Mary. There was a woman who was a cook. She was contaminating all. So what the county did, they put chlorine in the water, chlorinated water supply. And that, you know, in developed parts of the world, we hardly ever see a case of typhoid or hepatitis A and E. So we, you know, keep self-bashing ourselves, if you like. So frequent hand washing is Islamic teaching too. And then boiling the water, you will.
And hygiene happens to be half of our religion, and I think that, you know, Professor Saab has actually hit the nail on the head where everybody's supposed to do that. And, you know, this is one thing which I might have gone through, that, you know, we had a chef who wasn't in a habit of cleaning or washing hands. And unfortunately, the entire family fell ill, and then we had to put in a camera in our kitchen to identify whether what's wrong, and then unfortunately what actually unfolded was something which I cannot even share over here on television. Now, in addition to that, sir, what I would love to ask you over here is that when we talk about bloodborne B and C, when we talk about waterborne A and D, which one's curable? Now, let's talk about the treatments which are widely available for people out there, 100% cure and then management of it.
Well, let's get back to B and C first, with your permission. These are both blood-borne diseases. If some individual who has hepatitis C, and there is a very simple test, it costs you even 500 rupees. You do what we call antibody test. If that individual is positive for that test, then you do another test which is called PCR. We see whether there is a living virus, and treatment is only for 3 months, and it costs you at best 25,000.
And that's hepatitis C.
C.
Okay, gone.
You are done.
100% cure.
100%.
Okay.
See, but this is very unfortunate. We still have segment of population.
Because we miss out on injections.
No. Injections treatment is over.
Okay.
2023, I mean, treatment of hepatitis C has revolutionized.
Wonderful.
It took scientific community close to 30 years. This virus was discovered in 1988-89. Okay, and now we are in 23. So this was tremendous, actually, and remarkable journey. A diagnostic improvement and then treatment improvement.
So now it's just medicine. That's it.
It's just 3 months medicine, cost you 25,000
That's it.
rupees. Okay.
Wonderful. Now coming back to
B.
B.
Well, B again. I mean, we should be vigilant. If somebody is what we call surface antigen positive, again we do a test what we call in slang, if you have a living virus in the body, it's called PCR test, okay? And then we do liver function, okay, how is the health of your liver? You take 3 parameters into consideration, and there is a one pill. Well, caveat for B is, it's a lifelong treatment.
So you have to manage it.
You have to, you can control the disease, you can suppress the disease, but eradication, once you have hepatitis B, you need prolonged treatment. We are talking on average minimum 5 years.
And then you can eradicate it.
Yes, 5, just one pill, but it may be a little disappointing. Oh, I'm committed to a treatment for 5. It's just one pill.
That's it.
And why we treat, by the way, if these B or C patients are missed, A, they are not picked, they are not diagnosed, they are not treated. As I said, they will develop what we call cirrhosis.
Yeah.
This is called shrunken liver. And then there is a water in the belly, you throw up blood, and one admission in private hospital costs you 300,000 rupees.
True.
And in government sector, as you know, we are struggling, with our healthcare delivery and sector. So taking one pill a day is, I think, certainly wise option than not being treated and ending up with so many difficulties.
Exactly. So yeah, get yourselves treated, ladies and gentlemen, and not just that. Please make sure in the first place that you go out to test yourself. God forbid, if you feel that there are some early symptoms out there.
That's very true. And Dr. Saab, now let's come to very pertinent point, and which is very prevalent, I believe, in our society. And since you're a doctor, you must be receiving lots of patients every day around the year. And there's this just sentiment, Shahzad, which is present in the patients, in which they say ki Allah ki marzi thi, right? Whenever they are diagnosed with that, or this is fate that was bound to happen, right? But obviously, we believe in medical sciences. We believe that there is a cure to all such diseases, and especially hepatitis in the first place, right? So how do you dispel this impression, especially within those communities who take the religion or the cultural beliefs as their defense, that this was Allah ki marzi, or this is what fate had destined them in the first place, and make sure that there is general awareness out there among the people that if they are suffering from the symptoms, they should come, get themselves tested, and make sure that they are healthy and fine in the first place.
Well, your point is very pertinent, but we can switch Allah ki marzi another way. Why don't God
We keep Allah ki marzi in treatment.
Okay. God has blessed the human beings with wisdom,
Right.
with common sense. You see, just getting tested,
Yes.
as you said, I cannot emphasize testing.
Right.
So, anybody who has unexplained symptoms like lethargy, tiredness, some fever, they just get themselves tested for hepatitis B and C. It does not cost you, as I said, more than 1,000 rupees. And once you are tested, and if you turn out to be positive, so this myth should be dispelled. It's totally, C is curable, and B is the word I'm using is controllable.
Yes.
And you are free of any problems. But if you keep on, you see, in South Asia and this Indian subcontinent, the reason is old myths, stigmas.
True.
Okay, if
Taboos.
somebody is diagnosed with B and C, and there are very crippling stories, but thing is, it's just a disease like any other.
Yes.
It's curable, and you have a normal life.
And which is why, sir, because we're shorter time, so I would want you to kind of comment on the prevalence of the waterborne, which is A and D, hepatitis A and D, early symptoms, and the treatments available.
Yep. Thank you. A and E, they are waterborne, and these days in Islamabad, I am seeing 5 to 7 patients in our Pakistan Air Force Hospital
Every day.
every day. And this is because of, contaminated water, poorly cooked food, and these patients have same symptoms as we have with gastroenteritis, mean inflammation of your stomach and small intestine. So they come up with fever, throwing up, and mostly they are labeled as typhoid, because typhoid is again orophycal route.
True.
So the thing is, be vigilant, careful what you drink and what you eat, especially in these monsoon season. We have rains, contamination, and be vigilant. When you are labeling somebody with gastroenteritis or typhoid, make sure you check one simple test, liver function test. If they are little up, you need to be alarmed and then keep your patient under service.
You need to be alarmed, and then you really need to make sure that you keep the patient on his or her toes as well, so that they really can be careful. But so very quickly towards the end, one last thing, and that is that since you have spoken about how washing hands regularly can actually make sure that you're going to stay healthy and avoid you from all such illnesses.
Yes.
But very quickly, can you please shed some light on what lifestyle changes other than washing hands can people do in order to ensure that they stay away from such viruses?
Well, in terms of, since we are talking about World Hepatitis Day and predisposition to blood-borne diseases, for men, shave your own face. Don't, barber. If they are using razors, whatnot, be careful. For ladies, if you're going to salon, be, watchful what kind of instruments they are using.
Yes.
For my fellow medical professionals, we need to be a little bit conscientious. Unnecessary procedure we should not be doing, especially in my field of gastroenterology, unnecessary endoscopies. And for hospital care, we should be very vigilant, sterilized equipment, screened blood products. And last thing, it's very alarming. We have close to, Pakistani population is 22 million. 10% Pakistanis are suffering from chronic hepatitis B and C. Means 10% mean 20 million, 2 crore. If you are talking internationally, every 30 seconds somebody is dying somewhere in the world because of B and C. Every day there is 3,000 deaths daily, 3,000 daily, 1 million people. So, but sad part is it's for God's sake preventable.
Yes.
So my suggestion or message is to eliminate this menace, testing, then treatment, and medical providers should be really very vigilant and conscious.
Exactly. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much,
so
Professor
much.
Dr. Saab, for being
Thank
with
you
us.
so
Lovely
much.
to be in conversation with you, and thank you so much for gracing our studios with your presence.
Always honored.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
sir.
And for everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it from the expert's mouth. All you need to do is just be careful, wash your hands regularly, do not eat undercooked food, make sure that that you're on top of your game, get yourself tested in the first place. God forbid if there is any symptom, the symptoms have been discussed in the program. Please make sure that
And
you
be
just look after
particular about the
yourselves.
sterilization in the first place, because Dr. Saab was constantly reiterating on this fact. And with that, we would like to wrap up our segment. And until next time, it's a goodbye, good morning, and Allah Hafiz.
Good morning.